Welcome to Breaking Silence, a space for real conversations, education, and advocacy.
We're your hosts, Tiffany and Taylor, and we work at the Haven Domestic Violence Shelter and Sexual Assault Center in Valdosta, Georgia.
Every day, the Haven supports survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and child abuse. And this podcast is an extension of that mission.
Here, we talk openly about issues that impact our community, break down myths, share facts, and highlight resources that save lives.
So these conversations may be a little heavy, but they're necessary. Our goal is awareness, prevention, and healing.
If you or someone you know needs help, support is available, and you are not alone.
This is Breaking Silence. Let's talk.
Welcome back to Real Talk, the podcast where we dig into issues that impact our communities. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Tiffany. Today's topic is heavy but incredibly important. We're talking about teen dating. February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and we're hitting hard on human trafficking in Georgia, the facts, the statistics, and what is being done to stop it.
Teen dating is so prevalent in all of our communities. We've even seen horrible outcomes right here in our community where teens have been killing their partners. Teen dating violence starts as patterns. It's harmful behaviors like controlling, hurting your dating partner. It can happen in any types of relationship. It doesn't matter your economic status, doesn't matter what race you are, your background, your sexual orientation, and it typically begins around the 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just abuse. It's not just physical abuse. It can be emotional abuse. It can be verbal. It can be digital abuse and even sexual abuse.
Warning signs are what we call red flags. Extreme jealousy, possessiveness, constant texting, calling, checking social media accounts, pressure to share passwords, locations, isolation from friends and family, sharing private photos without consent is abuse. Trafficking apps, demanding location sharing can be a form of control also.
If you or your teen is struggling with a toxic relationship, or maybe it's just an abusive relationship, you need to talk to a trusted adult. That can be your parent, that can be a counselor, a coach, someone that you feel comfortable talking with. But there are teen dating abuse helplines. So it's 1-800-1866-331-9471, and we will pop that up in here.
Yeah.
There is also a text line. You can text "love is" to the number 22522, and that should be able to have you text with someone like a counselor that can help work through your situation, work through your relationship, and help you leave that abusive, toxic partnership.
And if you are a parent and you're worried about your teen, spot and point out the red flags. Give advice. Tell relatable stories, things that you've gone through. Ask how you can help and reach out to agencies that can help, like the Haven. But always call 911 if you suspect abuse.
Now, January was also Human Trafficking Awareness Month, so we have to talk about it. We missed that.
Yeah, we did.
Now that it's February, but we're circling back, and we want to talk about a little bit of human trafficking. It's just one of those crimes that people think happens somewhere else, but that's not true. It happens right here in our neighborhoods,
in our backyards. Mm-hmm. Exactly, because human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar criminal enterprise, and it is considered the fastest growing illegal industry in the world. In Georgia, especially Atlanta, is one of the biggest hubs in the U.S.
But let's start with some of those basics, like what is human trafficking? I know that it involves force, it involves coercion and manipulation. It can be labor trafficking, it can be services, commercial sex acts. The term human trafficking is an umbrella term for a lot more.
And that coercion doesn't always look like chains and locked doors. It can be psychological threats, lies, emotional abuse, or even manipulation disguised as love or opportunity.
That's right. It's really rooted in that 13th Amendment that prohibits slavery, involuntary servitude, these laws that exist that protect people, which is what we refer to as a modern day slavery. But it's important. It's important to clarify that any sex act that involves a minor, someone who is under the age of 18, any commercial sexual exploitation is trafficking, period. It does not have to have force. It doesn't have to have coercion or fraud. If anyone is benefiting from the use of a minor, that is automatically considered human trafficking.
And that's rooted in the 13th Amendment, which prohibits slavery and involuntary servitude. These laws exist to protect people from modern day slavery, and that's what human trafficking is.
Yeah, and victims are often among some of the most vulnerable populations. We're talking about runaways. We're talking about children who have been abused or have experienced abuse, who have a lot of trauma. We're talking about the elderly population, the homeless population, the people who are maybe immigrants. They may fear deportation. Maybe they have a hard time trusting law enforcement, or they're in a situation where they're unable to get out of it because that trafficker is providing their basic needs, like their medication, their food, clothes, shelter. So it's really hard for them to go to a safe place or to get out of that situation.
Because they just feel trapped. Sexual servitude or sex trafficking involves using force, fraud, coercion to exploit someone for commercial sex.
Here's a surprising thing. Most people, when they think of human trafficking, think you have to be transported somewhere, usually across state lines or from another country. And while that does happen, that is not the majority of human trafficking we see. People can be trafficked from their homes. Teens can be trafficked through social media, right in your home, online.
Social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, the online classified ads, like all of that are like huge recruitment places that sex traffickers look or go to find their victims.
That's very true. And most people, that's often true with the younger 12 to 14 range. A lot of people are being recruited through online platforms. But most people think that arresting the traffickers, and if we go after the traffickers, it solves all the problems. But that's only just one part of the picture.
Exactly. Because survivors need trauma. They suffer from trauma. So they need medical care, housing, job training, long-term support. The first step is just identifying it. Mm-hmm. That's when the actual work begins.
Right. Labor trafficking is when someone's forced into working in conditions like debt bondage or slave-like conditions. So in the scenario where someone is found in human trafficking, what next? What do you do with those victims? If you're unable to provide those basic services like housing, help them to find jobs through job training, a lot of times they are forced to go onto another abuser. Just because their trafficker was arrested, the option is for them to continue on to the next person.
So that's when it comes in to help rebuilding their life all over again.
Yep. So let's talk about some numbers, because honestly, the numbers can be really disturbing, especially for Georgia.
Right. Yes, definitely.
I'm going to refer back to some of my notes on some of these numbers. But we're ranked in between, it depends on the year, but between the 5th and the 7th highest state for human trafficking. With that being said, that's like 4 out of every 100,000 people in the state are a victim of human trafficking. We're in the ranking orders with California, with Florida, with Texas, with New York. And then Ohio, Illinois, and Georgia battle for who's going to place 5th in that rank.
In the top 5.
In the top 5 for human trafficking. Which is astonishing. Most people don't really think about that when they think about Georgia being so high up in human trafficking, and it's just because of our locations. We have access to ports. We have like major intersections that come through. We have a
definitely, and I see
major airport.
The National Human Trafficking Hotline saw reports jump from 98 cases in 2012 to 573 in 2024.
That's right, and the average victim of human trafficking is the age between 12 and 14.
And you were mentioning how the airports and the major interstates like I-75, I-85, I-20, I-285, and about 65% of men who buy sex from young girls do so within and outside of the I-25 parameter. And I did not realize that Atlanta is
a major
yes,
hub.
yes.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit with FIFA coming to Atlanta is going to be a really big hit for victims of trafficking. So we'll need to do a lot of education before that happens in March.
Yes.
But to be fair, Georgia does meet the minimum requirements for our federal standards in human trafficking. And it's something that we're working on here at the Haven. And the Haven has staff members that are on the human trafficking task force for the state of Georgia. And it's something that the task force is also working on, is trying to increase those standards.
And the state has expanded victim services, increased labor inspections, created partnerships between inspectors and law enforcement. We're creating mandated training for hotels, trucking companies, and gas stations, because we know that that's usually where they're coming through and be the first point of contact, someone noticing it.
Yeah, but there's still a gap. There's still those gap in identifying victims, because there's fewer convictions, even though we have more trafficking happening in our state.
Well, let me ask you this. Why are there fewer convictions?
It's a really good question. Some of the prosecutors I've talked to stated that it is difficult. It's hard to prosecute for human trafficking. It's hard to identify all of the things that qualify. So when you're not prosecuting, there's less convictions for human trafficking, even though that's what they were doing. There's also alternative charges that go right along with it. But yeah, that's something that we want to try to educate on and try to help our state come up with our standards to say that we need to hold them accountable and charge them for what's actually happening in our community, to show how prevalent it is and that there is consequences for those actions. There's been some really major operations, though, in the past couple of years. So we have to give kudos to that. The state does have the Human Trafficking Heat, which is a unit that is just dedicated to human trafficking in Georgia. And they've done things like the Operation Radiant Shadows, which was in November of 2025, out in Albany. You have the Southeast Georgia Joint Human Trafficking Investigation, which was out of Camden County in February of 2025. One of really big one here for South Georgia was the Bloomin' Onion investigation. Are you familiar with that one?
No.
So the Bloomin' Onion operation was Atkinson County. It was Bacon, Coffee, Tatnall, Toombs, and Ware. And it was a really big labor trafficking where they were bringing in undocumented workers. They were in really poor conditions. People died.
And that is so close to home.
Yeah, it was right here, and it was really big. Some more things they worked on was Operation Lights Out, which was multiple counties in Georgia, even multiple states. It was hubbed out of Columbus and did involve children. You had Operation Hook out of Dalton, Georgia, which was last year, and that also involved children. And then you had Operation Wrong Room, which was multiple states back in August of 2024. And all of those operations that I mentioned had mass amounts of victims and anywhere from 15 and up perpetrators that were arrested for those crimes for each operation. So there is things that Georgia's doing. Yeah. There's operations that are taking place. Law enforcement's often underfunded. Maybe
keep that in mind.
Yeah. That, it takes a lot of money to go after these big rings like this.
Yeah. And many raids focus on arrest instead of victim identification.
Yeah.
So law enforcement often like funding and training to handle digital and financial evidence tied to organized trafficking rings.
Right. So without that victim identification and partnerships with those right organizations, like I said earlier, victims are left to go back onto the next abuser. So we're not often taking the victims out of that lifestyle and help them rehabilitate if we can identify who those victims
offer the
are.
Services so they'll know. And awareness is just the first step. Knowing the signs, supporting survivors, holding systems accountable can save lives.
Yep. If you or someone that you know needs help, you can contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline. We're going to list it here, but it's 1-888-373-7888. And we'll post that. We'll post some links on how you can do that. But be aware, be vigilant. See if you notice any signs. If you think something might be human trafficking, you can report that. It's to the National Crisis Line.
And you can call anonymous. And if you don't want to call that,
Yep.
if you can't call that number, reach out to us, the Haven. We're local, and we have a crisis line that can help.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Oh, we
forgot this beautiful
purse.
purse. I'm sure y'all have seen this beautiful purse sitting behind us. So what we're gonna do is Vanna White. We're gonna raffle this beautiful Kate Spade lavender. And y'all, I like big bags. I love my purses I love this. It's very pretty. But what we're doing is we're gonna raffle it. And how you enter the raffle is you follow, subscribe, follow, like, share, and you got to comment. Comment and tag 3 people
in your comment.
Yep,
that's what we're going to be looking at. This was donated by a friend of the Haven. They wanted to remain anonymous, but thank you for donating this to help us get subscribers.
Right.
You can win it for yourself. Men, you can win it for your ladies,
exactly.
For your mom,
Valentine's
for your sister.
Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead and like, share, and comment with tagging 3 people.
Yes, and we will be announcing the winner. March? We're gonna do it in March.
Yep,
in March, we're gonna announce the winner in March and how you can come claim your bag. And is it just to be sure? Can they like as many and tag as many times? Like, can the same person like and tag as many 3 people, and we'll go by how many times that they come in it or how many people they tag.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be counting, looking for you all.
Yep. So we'll see you next time. Stay informed and stay compassionate.